Welcome to Love Local, the podcast by Jennifer Cornish Design, where we spotlight the incredible independent businesses in Newbury and the surrounding areas. I'm your host, Jen, and each episode I'll be chatting with a local business owner to hear their story, how they started, the challenges they faced, and the creative and marketing decisions that helped them grow. On this episode of Love Local, we're joined by Antonia from Honour and Pop. Welcome to the Love Local podcast. Thank you for coming on. Shall we dive right in and start with how you started your business and the story behind Honour and Pop?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's very exciting. So the story of Honour and Pop. It started not as Honour and Pop. It started rather swiftly without much thinking about it. I was working in a business which wasn't very inspiring, and I wanted to just get out of that. And I'd had a lot of my own businesses in the past, and I'd spent a couple of months over one particular summer helping a lot of friends and schools do some events. Not paid for or anything, but just happened to fall into this position where I was helping these schools do some events. And then a great friend wasn't very well and she was getting married. And she came around for a drink one night and said, "Oh, my wedding. And I sort of looked at what she was doing thinking, this is carnage. You're never going to get a wedding at the moment. So I said, well, should I just help you? And she said, that'd be amazing. So one summer I literally just ended up doing events and a wedding, and they all ended up, I have to say, really brilliant. And people said, why don't you do this as a job? And I was like, no, this isn't a job, organising parties and things, that's not a proper job. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, hang on, maybe it is a proper job and I can actually make something of this. And as I said, I was in a job at the time that I wasn't really enjoying. And I thought, let's just give this a go. So I literally just started. Not much thought process into the whole thing. I made a logo at home. I put my initials on it, and I just started putting myself out there to organise parties. And at that stage, I wasn't planning weddings mostly. I just thought parties. I've always been a bit of a party girl, love parties, love having people around, love that whole kind of concept of bringing people together. And I was lucky. I just fell into organising some parties. It all went really, really well. And then I was asked to do a wedding, and I just fell in love with the whole sort of magic of organising someone's wedding. And I thought, hang on here, I'm really missing a trick with not doing more weddings. And it was at a moment where I thought what was a brand, it wasn't really a brand, it was just a logo, shall we say, and me. I thought, this isn't very weddings. It's not sort of conveying who I am, what I am. So I then started a whole, let's have a real look at what I am and what I'm trying to do here. And I went through a whole rebrand. So what started off as something called AR Party Planning moved to Honour and Pop.
And how did you come up with the name Honour and Pop? Like, where's that come from? Because obviously that's quite a big shift from what you were originally to what you are now.
Yeah. So I wanted to create a brand that was not necessarily associated with me as a name. I wanted it to convey what I did, so weddings and parties. So I wanted to sort of to name something to sort of represent both sides of what I organised. And it did take quite a long time to think of a name. And it just actually fell out of the sky one day. I thought, I often talk about how it's such an honour to work with somebody for planning their wedding. And I just thought, oh my goodness, that word, honour, not only is I just think it's a lovely word, but it's how I feel when I work with somebody. And then the pop represents the sort of party side because, again, things like I love putting in a pop of colour into people's event design and styling. And again, it just sort of, the word pop is quite sort of party-ish. So I thought that it kind of just sort of gelled.
Yeah, amazing. And you obviously talked about, well, this isn't a proper job because I love doing what I'm doing. And I definitely can relate to that because I think about that all the time. I love what I do. And I think it's really important in your job to love what you do. So did you have any challenges with that when you were starting out and thinking, hold on a minute, this can't be my job, if that makes sense, because you loved it so much?
Yeah. I think the challenges were not so much. I loved it, and I wanted to convey that to everybody. But the challenges, I suppose, first were without really thinking about what I was planning on the business. I hadn't been years in planning of what this business was going to be. The challenges were suddenly, crikey, I've got to do everything. Yeah. I've got to be, the accountant, the marketer, the brand, the organizer, the creative, the everything. And that at first was like, whoa, where do I begin with that? So that's when I rebranded. I obviously did bring in some help with that. And things like my website, I needed some help with that. Somebody I knew years ago helped me with my website. Sadly, we hadn't met by then. Yeah. So that all helped. So I think definitely bringing in people to help me sort of sort out the bits that I wasn't very good at. I think it's really important to understand that if you're not brilliant at something, better to probably get some support, get some help, pay some money rather than struggling and spending hours and hours trying to do something. So that was the sort of challenge of just being realistic about what I could do in my time. Yeah. And then just sort of it was very much believing in myself. I knew I was good at what I did. I know I'm good at organising. I'm quite creative. I love to design. And I knew all of that worked. So it was just using what I could do myself, but then bringing in support where I needed it.
Would you say that was one of your biggest challenges then when starting out the business, was realising, oh my gosh, I've actually got to do everything? Like, I think sometimes when people start a business, they maybe underestimate that and think, wow, okay, I'm just going to run with it. But actually, was that an issue for you, or did you have any other problems when starting out?
I think it's just, I suppose the problems were, the challenges of getting everything done. And also when I really started thinking about it, I had a quite high standard of what I wanted to be at, level I wanted to be at. So it was getting a lot of advice on that, working out what would work, what wouldn't work. And the challenges of just trying to just sort out the good, the bad as well. And just managing it all. Time is always my downfall. And just trying to fit everything in and trying to make it to what I wanted it to be.
Yeah. And with regards to, you've obviously talked about your brand and your marketing. How was that journey for you when sort of starting the business, and obviously now you're growing? How have you found that journey with Honor and Pop? Obviously, you've already mentioned you've already rebranded and changed names. What sort of things have you faced along the way?
So I think what I wanted to convey was, at the beginning, I wanted to convey sort of who I was, sort of what I sort of represent, and how I can support couples with whether it's a wedding planning or a party plan. I'm naturally quite a vibrant and bright person and positive person, and I wanted to convey that. So my branding is quite bold. It is quite bright, vibrant. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm putting that onto my clients. It's just I wanted to show clients the initial, oh, this is who Honor and Pop are. This is what they represent. Vibrancy is not just in colour. I think it comes about in the design of a party, the creating the fun, the atmosphere. So I think you can still have a very, should we say, calm colour palette for a wedding, but it still can be vibrant. And so I was just trying to get across this is me, and being honest about who I am. And so I was quite bold in the colours I've chosen. So now Honor and Pop is growing. I think I've established my brand. I'm now just trying to push myself out there on my marketing to sort of reach out to more and more clients. And I'm doing that in slightly different ways than when I started. I'm trying to work a lot more on my SEO, getting myself found out there in the big wide world and Google. One thing I have started working a lot more on is blogs, because I think that is a wonderful way of getting my expertise, my experience across to people by writing blogs, answering questions, helping them solve problems. That's sort of product that can be on my website. It's sort of evergreen. It's always there. And it's also really helpful when I get inquiries, and people often will be saying, oh, I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about maybe getting married in a country marquee, or maybe I want to do a venue in London, I'm not quite sure, or maybe they live abroad, but they want to come back to get married in the UK, but they're not quite sure about the legal side of it. I've been able to use these blogs to send to potential clients saying, well, listen, I've just written this recently. This might help you. And so not only is it great for SEO and Google sites, it's just really good content to support potential clients and going forward.
Yeah.
So that's been a great.
And it's you using your expertise, and that's what Google is shifting more towards. It's wanting businesses to be experts in their field and writing articles, not just for articles' sake, but because they actually have advice and tailored advice to that industry. Yeah. And I think your industry in particular is a great industry to be working in, because there are trends and there's topics that come up that you can then write articles about that will then help you be an authority in your field, and you're able to share those articles across social media or across your blog, your website, and that will then help you attract the right client. And then it just becomes this evergreen of leads coming into you, because you're writing about your year's worth of expertise, and it should come naturally because you've been doing it for so long. It's just then tailoring it to those trends and what Google see as kind of acceptable to help you climb the ranks. So yeah, I think it's amazing. Those blogs that you're doing are amazing, and they will help you grow even more. And I see that a lot with businesses of your level that have been established for quite a few years, that now need to take it to the next level and go, actually, it's just more about, it's not just about social media and recommendation. It's about, how do I go to a wider field, maybe across multiple counties, and putting sort of location targeting and things like that on their website. So it's just you kind of, we've talked about before, upping your game really, and it's a really exciting place to be. So with that in mind, talking about design and marketing, what would you say has been one of the biggest decisions you've made about design and marketing that has helped support your business?
I think being consistent and being authentic. I think as a wedding planner and party planner, it is a huge thing to be taken on by somebody to plan possibly one of the biggest days of their lives. And I think part of my marketing is trying to get me across, so people can learn about me, because they're putting their trust into me. I become like almost her best friend from like 12, 18 months before we get very, very close. I learn about all their life. I meet all their family, their dogs, their cousins, their great aunts, everything. So I become very much part of their family, their life. And so I think it's really important that while they're beginning to go through this process of looking for a wedding planner or a party planner, that they can see who I am before that. So I'm trying very hard to put myself out there, so people can see maybe behind the scenes of what I do, because it's not just all the pretty bits. There's so much work for a wedding and so much that happens behind the scenes. And I think people really love to see that. So I think through my marketing, not only am I sort of trying to present all the beautiful weddings that I create and design, but it's understanding that process of how we get to that end point. And I think that's a really great way on the marketing side of showing up. Good old Instagram stories. Everyone loves to see a little clip of a marquee being built, all the tables being brought in off the lorry, because that's what it's all about. It's not just the wedding day, it's the whole build up of what's going on. So I'm using that in my marketing.
And it's also showcasing your service, isn't it, really? And showcasing, look, as a bride, do you really want to be helping get the tables off the lorry, or do you just want to leave it to me to kind of sort out and organise while you just enjoy your day and the days leading up to your days? I think everyone loves the behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And seeing how things are kind of pulled together. And also people like to hear about what's gone right and what's gone wrong and stuff like that. So, and social media is a great place to do that.
It is, yeah.
If you were to give someone a piece of advice for starting their own business, or starting potentially an event-based business or a wedding business, what would that be?
I think first of all, it's probably never a perfect time to start a business. I think if you've got an idea or a passion or a love for something, you just go for it, because we all can think, oh, if I wait till next week, that might have been done, or next year, this might have happened. But I think if you believe in yourself and you've got this idea, try and just go for it. You'll have to slightly pick up the pieces as you go along and learn as you go along. But if your passion is there, go for it. And I think really reach out to local support, community, other people in the industry, whether it's in the wedding industry or fashion industry, whatever you're in, reach out to other people around, because there's so much support out there. And I really believe in sort of collaboration rather than necessarily competition. Really work with other people, maybe go and offer to help, if in your events and you're just starting out, offer to go and help for somebody else, so you can learn, you can understand, you can support. And I think that is one of the biggest things. We're lucky around here, West Berkshire. I'm very lucky in the wedding side of things. A lot of amazing suppliers who I work really, really closely with. Love supporting them. They support me, and we sort of collaborate together. It's brilliant. And even not wedding industry people, just there's a great community locally. So whether it's on business side, coaching, websites, there's just great support. So reach out to your local area.
And what I found is no one's negative. Like, everyone is so positive and so supportive of your business. And it's exactly like you say, even if you are in competition with someone, just go and learn from that someone. If you're aspiring, if you see a business that you think, oh, do you know what, I want to create that, just go and speak to them and ask them the questions of how they started, because it's all about collaborating and not competing, exactly like you say, and enjoying the job that you do and the business that you do. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Love Local podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
If people want to find out more about Honour and Pop, your website is?
So it's honourandpop.co.uk.
And they can find you on Instagram
and that is honour_and_pop.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Love Local. If you're a small business owner in Newbury or the surrounding area and you've got a story to tell, I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to follow, leave a review, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Thanks again for listening. I'm Jen, and I'll see you again on the next episode of Love Local.